team in Minding Creative Minds, which we've come along today to hear about. She's also a DEI award winner and a lecturer in both DBS and in TU Dublin. And I'll hand you over straight away now to Emma. Welcome and thank you so much for your time today.
Not at all, and it's lovely to meet everybody. Thanks a million for having Mind and Creative Minds with you today. I know we're all very busy, but I'm not in Mind and Creative Minds. I'm in academia myself, so I know we're 4 weeks in, and it's all lovely and bubbly. And really, what we wanted to do today was to just share some information about Mind and Creative Minds and the service we provide. And ultimately, our community that uses Mind and Creative Minds are creatives who are working in the creative workspace. And I appreciate, depending on the various training programs or CPD programs or SkillNet collaboration programs or higher ed programs, that could be across a number of courses that you're finding students coming into you from. So the idea was just to give you some information for yourself as well, for those of you that are creatives and in the sector yourself, what we do, and I guess how we can be of support to you and how we can be supportive of your students. I know we've been up in ATU actually in Galway just in April, and we met a lot of the students who were doing a kind of an employment block or placement block on program in ATU. And we were quite surprised that a lot of the creative students were already in the sector. They were working part time, at least 2 or 3 days a week in their role, and they were a lot of mature students as well. So the feedback that came back from our team that were there was a lot of the students that were on the programs were well above our kind of traditional 19 to 24 year olds. So that made it like was quite interesting, and that also then was further reinforced by the Creative Furthers Academy. They had an insight report, and they spoke about some of the work they're doing with SkillNet, the Cultural and Creative SkillNet, and the Creative Future Academy. So there seems to be a lot of synergy around that kind of returner to work or back to education, or creatives that want to go back and upskill and refresh or maybe add something on to their previous traditional creative profession. And obviously animation and film and music and writing has never been as popular around the world as it is today. So we have this great creative output coming out of Ireland. And Mind and Creative Mind started 5 years ago in informally in January 2020, formally launched in June 2022, the music sector, specifically the music sector. And we were a counselling service providing that mental health and balance for anyone involved in the music sector. So that could be tour management, artist management, as well as the artists themselves. And by October, November 2020, COVID lockdown was well and truly on its way. Stages and venues were closed. The creative world was completely locked in at home. Some were even locked in Ireland, on our island, and couldn't get back to wherever they were going. And so it was a really interesting year. So the Department of Art under the Minister Catherine Martin approached Mind and Creative Minds to expand that service out to other creators. And from that point on, we've been a support service and a pillar for creatives across the whole island of Ireland. The important thing I gets to note about Mind and Creative Minds is that we do provide our service for Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So we're all Ireland, which is quite important. We would have a number of creatives that work both sides of the border, but are also creatives potentially working like in Dundalk, but living in Monaghan, or living in Antrim. So we do have that really kind of quite versatile creatives that are traveling for their work and residing somewhere else. So we needed to make sure we also provide our service to any Ireland-based creative. So if they're a migrant creative, they're someone from another country who are living here or resident here for a time, as long as they're here in Ireland and they're residents in Ireland, they're welcome to use our service. And if they're on tour, if there's any Ireland-based creative on tour outside Ireland, they can also use Mind and Creative Minds while they're on the go. And that can be calls like coming out of a gig at 2 a.m. in the morning, having had a big row with whoever else they were big enough, and they need an in the moment counselor to help them calm down and vent, for some 20 minutes or so. Um, and so it's quite a versatile service in that sense. I'm going to bring you through some slides now that will formally show you a bit more about what we do, but that kind of gives you the context. So I guess really our approach is that we are open to creators who are over 18, who are in the creative world already. And when it comes to students, there's balance and act that we need to try and get, where we're trying to not, we don't want to really be providing the counselling service or the career service where those services already exist on the campus. We don't want to supplement or replace the service that's already there. Sometimes you'll have a creative that is working part-time. They're in a final year of a creative program. They're kind of already have one foot in the creative sector, and they're dealing with things that are quite nuanced to the creative sector that would be quite hard to deal with, And so for that purpose, Mind and Creative Minds like to reach out and do this kind of outreach to make sure that all of the career offices and any student services offices are available of what we do and who we can help. I guess the first year student who often contacts us and says, "Hi, I'm just in the door. I'm 4 weeks in and I've just started my first program in, production or TV, film or multimedia and culture, or what have you." We would normally be signposting them back on this, and we're delighted. Best of luck. Hope everything goes great. Contact us in your final year, because right now your student union, your student services, your career office, your everything is there. And so we would signpost that student back to use their campus services. So I guess it's important to make that clear as well, that we really, and in our funding, like we're out looking for funding all the time, because we fund the service, we pay for the mentors, we pay for the counselors, we pay for all of our therapists. It's a free service to the user, but it's not free in those developing and delivering the service. So from that point of view, we're not at capacity yet, but we do want to make sure we're not getting to capacity, with necessarily not an all creative cohort, if that makes sense. The one restriction we have with Mind and Creative Minds, we don't like to have many limits, but the one limit we do have is that they are somewhat active in the creative space, even if that's their final year placement or they're about to go out the door in 6 weeks. So once they're in that final semester of their final year, they are most welcome to engage with Mind and Creative Minds in our workshops, in our career services, in our creative art therapy, in our counselling. Imagine we've just finished an 18-month pilot of a creative art therapy program that had 38 participants. And the first insights we just got from them showed a 78% response for creatives that felt this was an excellent choice of therapy for them. It wasn't talk therapy, it was music therapy or drama therapy or art therapy. And it was very little talking and more doing around that creative piece. So I guess for some that is the need, isn't it? And what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to share the slide if that's okay now, and let me know and ask for thumbs up. Maybe. Can everybody see your AHECS? AHECS.
Yes, Emma, it's visible. Thank you.
Uh, so I don't need to tell you about AHECS. No need to talk about that. When it comes to describing Mind and Creative Minds, the way we describe our service is a free wellbeing support service. We're for creatives across the island of Ireland and 18 years. Okay, so that's free wellbeing. The vision for us is quite straightforward. We're dedicated to supporting the mental health, the well-being, and the career development of creatives. That's what we're looking for. I mean, we're looking to help the headspace, the financial stability, because we really believe that if we can get the financial stability and the economic empowerment stable and under control, then it would alleviate some of the mental stress that creatives deal with this roller coaster of, changing lanes and being on contract, being on freelance a lot of the time. And so that's quite an important one. And then our special advisory panel would provide free legal and free finance. And that is often a situation where they're potentially in a workplace, having taken a contract up and it's not going according to plan, or something's not being met that was supposed to be met, or there are two directors who wrote a piece together and they're having a serious issue now with regards to the future of their project. And that normally comes when there's funding or something in the pot, and there might be this discrepancy around, well, actually, who owns the piece of work. So again, sometimes very nuanced areas of the creative space, like contract, intellectual property, that kind of thing. And we would pay legal barristers and solicitors to provide us that for that space, just to kind of give them that snapshot where they are and what we need to do. So the vision here is just see a world where in Ireland, specifically, creatives, art, and the live event sector is thriving. So I should say this involves live events very much so. So production, arts workers, I'm in live events myself. So anybody at all involved in that performing arts festival, in the film festival, in the FLA, in St. Patrick's Festival, which, started its planning a month ago, and they'll have over 200 events on their calendar by the time January comes, and then they'll begin to execute those by the 10th of March. So it's a huge area around tourism, give, that kind of multiplier effect. So that creative community being strong and being stable for us is important for Ireland, And that would be our vision, to really just ensure that we can provide a humble piece of that journey for a creative, and help them stay, I guess, in the lane they want to follow for their career. We're constantly adapting our services. I should say that the creative community are quite vocal. So we'll often find maybe every 1 year or 2 years that the service has already been kind of deemed somewhat out of date, no different to a module or a course, and we have to go back and revalidate and evaluate it and get it kind of tweaked to ensure that it's fit for purpose. So we are a very reactive service in that sense. Our mission is really that day-to-day work that we do to make the vision a reality. So we are 5 people in Mind and Creative Minds. We're 3 in the leadership team, including the CEO. We're all part-time. And we have 2 new support staff and administrative staff since July, which is the first time we've had administrative support. So sure, that's why we're smiling. We're only delighted. We've gotten to sit back and do more, outside this exact kind of thing. And I guess the mission is to get that day-to-day work promoted and advertised. So again, counselling, therapy, career advice, mentorship, financial and legal guidance. And one area that you might decide to pop into yourself actually is we have a monthly meet and greet. It happens on the last Monday of every month. So unless there's a bank holiday, in that case, it'll be the Monday before. So to give you an example, next Monday, there's a monthly meet and greet. And that could be anywhere between 20 and 30 creatives or up to 50 creatives. And they're from anywhere in Ireland. They could be on an island off the south of Kerry. They could be up in Donegal. They could be anywhere in Ireland, Northern Ireland. And we've often also had a couple of our creatives who are traveling abroad, like in Germany and that, come into the monthly meet and greet as well. So sometimes because the likes of visual art or sculpturing can be quite silo, like that loneliness can be quite tough. We have a lot of writers, we have a lot of animators where the work they're doing is very silo. They're working on their own in their own studio or work from home, and the loneliness is there. And they come in literally to just network, sometimes to just listen, have a coffee, connect, listen to others, or at some point you normally see the cameras go on at a certain point when they're feeling comfortable, and in they go and they dig in, to the conversation. And it's very informal. So everyone will just be in breakout rooms, 3 or 4 people in each breakout room, and they're just having a chat and kind of connecting. And it's great because the amount of collaborative projects that seem to stem from that organically is quite interesting to hear a year later that a couple of people have met and they've ended up doing something together on a project, which is great. So I guess ultimately at the heart of what we do is that empathy piece, for creative. Especially when you think about your final year, they've likely had a portfolio, they've been on placement, or they've already been signed up to agencies, whether that's doing extras work or that's just kind of getting work through friends or family or anyone they know. And that can be sometimes like you're leaving a venue, at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're getting paid for 7 hours, but you've been on the set 14 hours, and you're not going to get the rest of those hours. And so it is difficult when the reality of the sector is beginning to land, with the young creation. And I guess that's why it's important that they know they have, when they go into their profession, like on a full-time basis, even if they're there on a part-time basis, that they do have a support, that they can lean on if they find that it gets particularly tough. So it's that, I guess, human-centered approach that we're really trying to get the message out about. I'll give you a snapshot of our 2024 impact. In 2023, we'd engaged about 4,500 in creative. They were either in touch with our services, like our counselling service Perspective, or they were in touch with our creative art therapy or our special advisory or the mentorship or the workshops in the Career Hub. So that has nearly trebled last year in 2024. So 23 was the third, 2024 was up at 12,000 plus. And this year we can already see we're up 20%. So, I mean, it tells us that it's a sector that's very underserved, if that's the word to use. And there's a real appetite for using any possible support available to them, available to the sector. So, and we're finding that, and we won't lie, it's a struggle as well then to make sure that we can keep funding, we can get funding. We had a lovely group contact us from Maine and from Letterkenny recently about, do we want to do something around research and development with them? And that was great because it meant that the college might get a research person and then they would share some of the research person in Mining Credit Mines. And for us who are looking for funding in any kind of pocket, it's great to be able to do something synergetic in that sense. So we're always open to that kind of activity, right? So we're not really doing enough with the feedback and the creations. I mean, they often come forward asking us to want them to be part of the focus group, or we want them to do a roundtable, and we don't actually engage our creations, I guess, as much as they might like. So we're definitely young in that sense, in our infancy, only 5 years old. So we're definitely open to any steering in that sense. If you're having any ideas, and you'd like to let us know if we should be doing something that is better, please do. So we've had 6,500 creative individuals come to us through live events and festivals. So, for example, we'd have a crew village that provides counselling support and on-site support at Electric Picnic. So that would be for any live events crew, any performers, any artists, anyone in the background, basically backstage at Electric Picnic. We would have, for example, a counsellor sometimes backstage on a particular theatre show. So, for example, it might be at the gate or it might be at the Abbey where there's something quite triggering, and we might have a counsellor in the background who's just on site for any of the actors or the crew that are being triggered by something. And that's not unusual for us to collaborate around things like that. Otherwise, we have our creatives just getting in touch with us directly. They're either calling the phone line, they're coming through our website, or they're contacting us by email. And it's a very direct, easy to use service. And to give you an idea of who we support, I guess, who's the creative tribe, there is so much more than this list. This is all I could fit on the screen. But we have like musicians, actors, visual artists, writers, dancers, poets, comedians, playwrights, screenwriters, filmmakers, storytellers, all forms of screen creatives, to be honest, right down to the prosthetic and the kind of runner, the runner on set, live events crew, arts workers, set designers, free artists, photographers, sculptors, art journalists, performing art, songwriters, spoken word, painters, crafters, and arts employees. So we do have a number of employees that are in organisations across creative sectors, but they would engage us on an individual basis. So let's say they're dealing with something in work, and they just want to know a little bit more, or it's having an effect on them and causing them stress or anxiety, and they need to be able to get some kind of techniques and grounding techniques and how to deal with this on a daily basis. So we do have a lot of individuals who will use the service, even if it's to do with what they're dealing with in their workplace. So The kind of last stage here, I guess, is to give you a summary of as to what we do. So the counselling would be up to 12 sessions. So I want you to think about it like 12 sessions is maybe €1,000, €1,200 of counselling to a creative. And during 2020, there was a working group who actually did a really good research piece on this for the minister at the time. And they were trying to gauge through this working group EPIC what would be the needs of the creative sector in Ireland. And they came back with a striking number, like more than 70%, who put affordability and lack of access as a reason that they didn't engage with help for their mental health. So, I mean, you can imagine how the rest of the areas of life and the elements can kind of fall apart if the mental health is going astray. So that would be why I guess the counselling and mental health pillar was that first pillar that we really invested time in and care to try and get that offering right. It started off at 6 sessions, but then as we aligned on the steering group with Safe to Create, and we helped Safe to Create from the time of its development. The Safe to Create would be a program that emphasizes a safe and respectful workplace. So Safe to Create would be an anti-bullying, respect and dignity, an anti-sexual harassment training initiative across the entire creative sector and art sector. So you'll find, for example, Safe to Create a code of behaviour, code of conduct training is coming into place for a lot of film sets, where any of the contractors on the film set need to have done the Safe to Create training in order to send in their invoice. So it's very much a program delivered through the Irish Theatre Institute, but an initiative that's backed by the Department of Art, and very much dealing with that Me Too. The Me Too movement, you know, as it started to raise its head, there was a Speak Up report in Ireland with over 2,000 creative, you know, coming forward into the report with information on the power dynamic that comes with, you know, the freelancing, the contracting, and the situations that were coming to light. So it was very disturbing. And from there, we were approached to see if our counselling service could move from being generic to quite trauma informed. So we now have two different types of counselling service. And when you go through the screening process, when you pick up the phone, you go through 5 or 6 minutes of this with a case manager, and it's defined whether or not it's grief, it's anxiety, it's stress, or there is possibly a short-term intervention trauma informed counselling needed, where it's to do with abuse or bullying or sexual harassment, that kind of thing. So that would be quite popular in the last 2 years, unfortunately. I know it's never nice to say that counselling is popular, but it's the need that's there, and our creative sector is hungry for it. They want to get help to be able to move on. And so the 12 sessions are now being used quite predominantly. The majority of our service are between 10 and 12 sessions. We don't see a lot of our service users going below 10. Or then you can get the one session of legal, finance, or career coaching. And that's kind of as far as our partnerships go. Spectrum would help us with that partnership piece. The rest of our services are all provided by Mind and Creative Minds directly ourselves. So, you know, creative art therapy, a therapist that we have engaged ourselves for our clinic at Leopardstown. Mentors, we have 18 mentors on a panel that we've engaged ourselves. We have legal, barristers, contract, law, IT, service contractors that we are hiring and we're paying. And then we're kind of doing a direct service, and then we have a third party piece to it. So the creative art therapy, then you can go to the website mindandcreativeminds.ie, go into the creative art therapy service and apply for creative art therapies there. So it's the recent insights are really powerful on that, I have to say. So it's brilliant to hear the impact coming back through. And the special advisory panel then is more the expert guidance, and you access that through our email. So the best way, if you're signposting anyone to Mind and Creative Mind, is go to the website, mindandcreativeminds.ie, or email info@mindandcreativeminds.ie, and we can take them from there. You know what I mean? So we can handhold them. If it's counselling, we can tell them the phone line or how to engage the counselling directly, or we can take them from there. So for yourselves, if you're thinking, I would just want to have this, you know, on hand, the website has everything. and the email address info at has an immediate turnaround. I mean, the max we'd ever have someone wait is, if they're emailing on a Saturday evening, it might be Monday morning. The majority of times they're even contacted back within that 48-hour window. During the week, they'd be contacted back within an hour. And sometimes even with regards to our special advisory panels, like our legal advice, they're turned around in 24 hours, and the counselling service is turned around within 5 days. So from the time someone accesses the counselling service to the time they're actually speaking to a counsellor for 12 sessions is within 5 days. And so we're investing heavily in that because we know that primary mental health teams at the moment through GPs in Ireland are 6 months. And we're in touch with the Rape Crisis Centre regularly and the Garda services. And even if someone had a situation of sexual abuse or a sexual assault, they would go to the Rape Crisis Centre and then be told 6 weeks is the earliest time at the moment they could have a counsellor. So that's quite unique to Ireland, that we would have those kinds of delays in a very traumatic situation like that. So that's where kind of, if they're a creative mind and creative minds, we kind of move in there and try and help. And the Career Hub, this is my baby. This is the bit I love. So you'll see me light up completely when we talk about that. Because I've seen over 3,000 mentees come through our mentorship program in the last 2 years. Since we started it in 22, we've got about 3,500 mentees. We see the results when they come back to us a year later. I got that fund, I got that bursary, I'm off to the Edinburgh Fringe, I'm performing here, I'm performing there. So it's brilliant when they get to meet a mentor. They have 3 one-to-one sessions with the mentor. That mentor has over 15 or 20 years in the sector, and they've saved them months, possibly years of messing around, going this way or going that way. And they've kind of helped them cut through a lot of the mess and going straight to doors open or going straight into a situation where they can be sitting on front of somebody to help them move on with their project. So we also do a full support service for funding applications. So we would have mentors that literally do application support. And those mentors would sit on county council art bursaries or art council panels or what have you. So they're kind of coming from inside. And then bi-monthly, we have an online career clinic open to everyone. They can go and register for the online career clinic on the website. They're brought in and they have 15 minutes with a specialist from 11 different sectors of the creative world. And they can just have a chat for 10 or 15 minutes about something they're thinking, and away they go. And then the monthly meet and greet, as I said. So to be honest, that's really it. That's it on the services. We've upcoming events all the time. So we've workshops happening every month. Our mentorship program is open at the moment. So if you're talking to any of your final years, or you're talking to anyone in your own community there professionally that are creatives, the mentorship program is open at the moment. Our next online career clinic is November 12th. Our next monthly meet and greet is next Monday. And other than that, we constantly have networking events, and we have an entire event calendar that's up on the website all the time. So being a small operation that we are, we have to nearly overly depend on the website, as the place to list everything. The website is our kind of number one point, we would say, the number one place to go as a first touch. And our 1800 number there, 1800-814-244, is a 24/7 dedicated phone line with 400 counsellors. The majority of our services outside creative art therapy, which is face-to-face and in person. Every other service that we provide can be delivered online, face-to-face, but online. So it can be on the phone or online. So for example, a mentorship program will be online through Zoom or Teams with the mentor. The counselling service can be on the phone or online, in person if you're within like 30 miles of the counsellor centre. But the creative arts therapy is the one that's mandatory to be in person, obviously because it can be drama or music or something. So it is a one-to-one in-person service. But other than that, the idea is to keep it affordable, keep it accessible. We're not asking people to pay €55 on a train fare so that they can come and do their workshop or come and do their counselling session. So the idea really for us is to keep it as accessible as we can. So that's really it. I've actually sent this deck over for it to be shared. because I know there's lots of information there, but that gives you a flavour, I hope, for what Minding Creative Minds does and how it could be used.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Emma. So I'll open to the floor. Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask Emma? You're on mute, Angela. Oh, I'll just look in the chat. Okay, there's a question here from Jackie. Would there be support for students out on placement year who are starting their own creative business in Northern Ireland?
And that's a great question. If they're over 18, yes. If they're on placement for a year, as in they're in a creative workplace, are they, Jackie? Are they
No.
already in a creative workplace?
So they are, so this is a program that we run at Ulster University that I know Caroline knows about it, and some of the others in the call probably know about it. It's called Enterprise Placement Year Program. And these students, and we get about 70% of our intake for the self-employed placement are from the creative arts. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Because
yeah, that's what I mean.
because
Because
that's what they're doing. They're going out to work for
they're
themselves.
self-employed. Yeah.
So
Answers,
we give them a 2-year head start by giving them a year of wraparound business support to obviously help them get their creative businesses up and running. But as you know, a lot of them are sole traders. A lot of them do suffer from imposter syndrome. They are scared about talking about money. They
Jackie,
have isolation issues of what you know, the crack.
We were in Belfast last Wednesday for the first time with the Arts Council of Northern Ireland, who invited us up to meet creatives to tell them about what we do, because they spoke as well about the kind of lack of knowledge of services that are available. Not that the services aren't, but the lack of awareness. And it was the reception we got was so warm. And your Enterprise Academy program in Ulster University is very similar to, I know, TU and MTU do one, don't they? Like a similar enterprise.
Student Inc.
Yeah,
that's it.
And they are.
MTU.
Yeah, and they are self-employed, but they are sole traders.
So these students are actually going out not to an employed placement year, but this is an accredited placement program. But they're going out as self-employed. There's no salary, so there's another. That's another risk. There's no salary, but and they're all over Northern Ireland because they're not on campus. They do not come on campus.
Perfect. When they're going out, they're self-employed. They're going to be out in the workplace already. They're the perfect candidate for Minding Creative Minds. Really, as you say, they're all over Northern Ireland. They need the support. They're literally already in the art sector. Yeah, they're absolutely a great example.
Yeah, so they would be acceptable if we had any who reached out and said that, I would like. I mean, we have our students.
All they have to do is literally say, "I'm a creative, and this is my information, and I'm looking for support in X." That's just
perfect. That's great. I'll maybe ping you an email, Emma.
Actually, I was going to say 3 of the attendees at the event last Wednesday have already been in touch, and they are small sole traders, and they've been in touch for e-commerce and marketing support. So in other words, they're working away, and their side hustle is this, but they want to make their side hustle full time, and so they're already in touch with how they could do that. And they're a great example of some of the career hubs and stuff.
Okay.
I think Dawn has a question or wanted to speak.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Emma. Thanks a million. That was just such great information, actually. I'm careers here in IADT, the Institute of Art, Design and Technology. So that's kind of over 60% of my cohort are basically fall within your
and actually, Dawn,
your remit.
Such a close relationship. We do a bit on the bridge, the building the bridge, the bridge and the gap, the alumni program at Louise. And Becca Roper from IADT actually sits on our parent committee for the Met.
Okay.
So IADT have been very much linked with us since we started. So great.
So look, it's great. It's great to just hear how. But just to hear how you've been concreting the services as well. It's just that there are roots there, and particularly the mentoring program, really interesting. Like all of the supports you're providing are pretty much on spec. So it's just great to see. I suppose one of the things that we've been kind of throwing about as the community of practice for the creative industry is kind of putting together some sort of graduate fair, like for within the creative industry, and really kind of just getting a space where we can, there are a number of fairs that run kind of throughout the country, but they don't really hit it in terms of what it is that the creatives need,
Dawn, I'm with you on
in
that.
terms of
This came up
representation.
at World Skills. We literally, we have a creative career summit in May, and that brings in about 250 creatives. But we really need an expo that's just a creative careers expo.
Yeah.
And actually, the amount of people that came up to the stand at World Skills asking, "Does that exist?" was phenomenal.
So I
And
suppose
it doesn't at the moment. So yeah, there's room for collaboration there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, would that be something that you guys would be interested as well? Because I know that
Yeah.
there are a number of kind of colleges on this call that are really interested in it too, and maybe we could get something together in terms of like
Especially
the
if it's
power between all of
graduate
us,
level. Yeah, and I think we could
you know.
potentially bring in a group of collaborators there, like the Creative and Cultural Skill Net. You could have Create Ireland.
Yeah.
You could have Minds and Creative Minds. You could have a branch of stakeholders in that where we're all kind of producing that together, co-producers. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and I think
so
there's definitely a need for it. I mean, this year in the Grad Ireland Fair, we put
yeah.
together something called the Creative Hub. Myself and Angela in Waterford, and Catherine, who was in DKIT, started this a few years ago. But and it's great, and it gets the creative companies into the Grad Ireland Fair. But it feels like it's not enough for
they
the
want
people
their
that we
own
have come. They want
nuanced
more,
area.
and
Yeah, they want
also,
more.
even though we had 5 companies send over their creative teams to their stand, they were kind of lost in the fray of the graduate programs that are generally being looked for. Do you know, that kind of a way? So yeah, I think it's even more come to the fore this year as something that would be a phenomenal thing if we could all pull together and actually really.
I did an info session recently, and they thought there'd be about 75 to 100 alumni on the call from the creative sector, and they ended up with about 500.
Yeah.
So that was like a phenomenal indication from graduates that are already out in the sector going, okay, I've stopped getting help now since I left.
Yeah.
What's there? So it is a huge gap. If you talk to our mentees, they're coming to us going, I've left college 3 years ago. I got this particular skill set, but I didn't get the business essentials, or I didn't get the marketing essentials, or I don't really know where to go and how to pitch. So there is, I guess, depending on the specialisms, there's always that extra need. So yeah, I can definitely open something like that if you want to do a follow-up, Dawn, a follow-up call on that.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thanks a million for that.
And Marie has a question, I think.
I just wanted to follow up. First of all, Emma, great presentation, and thank you to AHECS and Mary Rose and everyone else for bringing this to our attention. It's great. I'd just like to echo what Dawn has said. Within MTU in Cork, myself, Mary Rose, and some of our colleagues have been tossing around ideas. We've just had a graduate fair, and we also feel that we're really missing the mark with our creative students. We would really like to help them. We were looking locally at what we could do, but it's very difficult. Actually, we've been looking at what's in it for the employer. They're not necessarily recruiting. How do we get hold of them? How do we connect the students in a more organized way?
Things like jobs boards, because there isn't actually a central resource jobs board for creative in Ireland. If you go to like Screen Ireland and you go to the various membership groups, absolutely, or careers.ie. But again, there's not like a creative jobs board. There's something in our strategy over the next 3 years that we certainly want to look at. But it's funny, our service is being pushed organically from the sector, if that makes sense. Every adaptation and tweak we've done actually in the last 3 years, we're in existence 5 years. And we're very lucky, like the CEO and the founder, Dave Reid, is immersed in this organization at every kind of piece of fabric intrinsically coming through it. So being an artist manager himself, but also a master's in psychology and having counseled students before, he's got this extremely strong, empathetic love towards the creative journey, I guess, that creative journey where they have to wear 3 or 4 different hats just to make it through financially through a year. And so how do you manage, the stress and everything that comes with that, as well as the relationship dynamic, that can be there with friends and families and other halves and things like that. So I know that this is something that he's been very proactive about kind of saying to us, look, if we have an idea and it can help create it and it can help further their career, you know, he's normally right behind it, you know. So I would certainly think we should potentially look into some kind of if everyone here, if there's a large contingent here that feel a creative career festival is needed, a creative career fair is needed.
Yeah.
should think that.
Discuss it further. Yeah. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Angela, you wanted to say something?
Again, just to, I suppose, Mary Rose and Dawn, and as I say, exactly what everyone's saying here on the call as well. It is that I suppose when we go out every year to ask the creative industries to participate in fairs, some of them are small little organizations and they haven't got the time to go, or they feel if I go to a careers fair, I'm letting people think that we've loads of positions. So I suppose it's really taking in what everyone has said, and sometimes they feel a careers fair isn't the way they recruit. So maybe we could be a part of it is to educate the students on how they actually recruit, or
more of a seminar where you're getting them up on stage and saying, how do we want to be approached?
Well, I think you could maybe not call it a career fair, but have maybe a career networking event. Yeah, a creative where you just bring people together and have like speed dating networking opportunities to go and meet a bunch of companies.
Yeah.
But where you're not trying to set up big stands with a big cost and then no students turn up. Whereas if you tell students, okay, there's 40 companies going to be there, having meetings, you know, and you can book a 15-minute slot to meet these companies. I think that would be a seller.
Yeah, because I suppose because as Anne-Marie said, when you go out to the employer, you know, they want to know what's in it for them as well, and they don't want to pretend there's loads of options and there may not be, you know, and they themselves are kind of struggling to keep going as well. So maybe that it is a networking event.
Yeah,
but also there could be, we could have something that the employers get as well. So, you know, we have a lot of knowledge that we can actually share in terms of like how other companies from other sectors do it. So sometimes people are very scared of that kind of internship piece because they just don't, you know, and actually we could have, it would be easy enough for us to have employers there to talk about how they do internships and how that has helped their companies, you know, within the creative sector. And we can make a lot of things probably less, you know, for companies, less scary somehow in terms of kind of what they're kind of buying into, or even your mentoring pieces that you've already done, Emma, you know, kind of educating companies about that, you know, so it could be something.
We're in the 4th year this year of the Creative Career Summit, and it takes place in the Radisson and Golden Lane. There's 4 pieces of networking to that, and the creatives come from all around the country, and there's 14 pieces that take place between spotlight stories and panels. And if you were trying to test the water, I guess, or pilot that, what we could do is potentially, if we were coming together, we could extend a section of that Creative Career Summit to trial this idea that you're going out to graduate,
amazing,
testing the water, and you're providing a purely graduate, a creative graduate with the creative sector networking piece. And we could have an area just designated to that. And I think if we come together, we could certainly do something there.
Yeah,
and
that
it's
sounds
well that
brilliant.
you're not having to take the risk on going out and finding a venue from day one from scratch and putting in the financial risk. Let's come together and cover a little space.
Look, and you know, and that has something that has the potential to grow, really, you know, you know, so and absolutely, and you start with that, starting with that kind of, that would be a very safe toe in the water for all of us, I think. Emma. I think that sounds brilliant.
I think you're all having a presence there, and then you're bringing the sector. Some of the sector are already there, like we'd have 7 or 8 stands already there, but you could certainly bring more. We've always kept it quiet in the sense of more of a summit. But because we have the stages and we have the space and we have the rooms, we can look for this area that becomes its own graduate career fest. And again, we're driving it. And I think if we're driving it through each of the colleges that have links with their alumni, and that alumni knows it's on, and then we invite the creative sector out, I think you could have magic there, you know,
Yeah.
to really happen
I'm
quite well.
very
Even if it's
excited.
slow and steady wins the race, you know,
Oh,
slow
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
steady builds
Oh,
up.
as
Okay.
I said,
Yeah.
it's dipping your
I-
toe into the water for that first year and seeing what you know, and the
Stands
magic
alone
happens.
eventually.
Yeah.
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 Okay. I think we'll wrap it up there. We'll pick that up again separately, and
Pull together a group on that.
yes, exactly, and I think we can do that in the next while.
Brilliant.
So just thank you so much, Emma, for your time, and thank you to Caroline and AHECS for sending out the link and everything. So I suppose we just finish up by saying watch this space, and hopefully we will be having something that can work out to have a careers event next year with the Career Summit with Minded Creative Minds. Thanks so much, Emma, and thank you for your time.
Lovely to meet you all, and thanks very much for coming in on your lunch.
Thanks so much,
Thanks,
Emma.
Lillian.
Thanks a million.
Thanks, Emma.
Thank you.